So anyhow, so first thing I want to talk about is, a posture, right? A lot of people think that you have to, sit on a couch, on a cushion, right? You can definitely meditate in a chair. What's good about sitting on the floor on a cushion is that you cannot fall out of a cushion, right? You can fall out of a chair if you get really zoned out, or even if you nod off, right? Meditation, one aspect of it is that it's very relaxing. So what could happen is that you get so relaxed, especially after, winding down, which is what this meditation is all about, right? Winding down from your work week. You could fall asleep and then potentially fall out of your chair, right? So that's the thing. And then as far as sitting posture, what you want to do is you don't want to sit up like super straight and like a stick, right? That takes too much effort. You also don't want to slouch down, because then maybe you're not alert enough, for one thing. And secondly, it's harder to breathe, right? Because you're compressing your diaphragm. So, it's part of what we're going to be doing here, obviously, is getting in touch with our breath, the thing that gives us life, right? Every moment of every day. And then, of course, through our breath, also to the rest of our bodies, right? So that's a quick note about posture and seating, and and then, again, just at a high level, you want to sit in such a place and in such a way that where you're, alert but comfortable. So, all right. And so now also want to talk a little bit about other aspects of meditation. So a lot of people think that meditation is tuning everything out. And it's not really that. It's about tuning out the noise so that you can better tune into what's more important to you, or what's most important to you, specifically you, right? Because we get all kinds of influences from the outside world, many of which are wanted, right? Obviously, we interact with friends and family, coworkers, and strangers, perfect strangers. And then some where we want to really just completely tune out, right? So I think when it comes to friends and family and those interactions, it's like sometimes you want to tune in a little bit, sometimes you want to tune in completely, sometimes you want to, it's like a little bit in between, right? So it's really about basically fine tuning, if you will, your abilities to tune in and to tune out, so that it's not like a 0 or 1, or that you feel like you're being you're being like bombarded, right? That's the main thing. So cutting out the noise, that's the feeling bombarded aspect of things, right? Of life in general. So, and so that's kind of the purpose of meditation. And then the way that we do this is through breath work, and one of the primary mechanisms by which we do it is through breathing, right? Proper breathing, deep breathing, getting into that, and then also getting into the relaxation of our physical bodies through our breaths, through also connection to the heart space. And, obviously in every culture, people talk about, feeling with the heart, thinking with the head, right? So part of what we're going to be doing also is connecting these two more together. And one of the ways that we get there is through the breathing, because that gets us into a lower frequency brain state, more calm, more suggestive brain state. And of course, suggestive or hypnotic brain state, right? It's like when you first wake up, right? It's like, huh, what? Somebody's telling you something, it's like, okay, I'm really listening, right? So it's that kind of, or when we're children, children actually start out at birth with lower state brain states, lower frequency brain states. So that allows them to become these learning sponges, right? And they absorb everything, especially up until the age of 7, right? And as parents, you two have already seen that. So, so we want to, in a sense, return biochemically and brainwave frequency wise to that, to a little bit of that childhood aspect, right? To allow us to be more connected to ourselves and who we are at our core. So it's not not a religion, especially after everything I just mentioned. It's not a religion. It's a series of techniques that allow you to do this. They're scientifically, biologically established, right? And of course, you can apply it to. You can strictly stick to applying it from a cognitive behavioral therapy standpoint, right? The scientific reality, or you can apply it to a spiritual practices completely non-religious or not affiliated with any religion, or you can apply it to Christianity, Judaism, um, Hinduism, whatever. It doesn't really matter. That's really up to you. What we're going to do is mostly I'm going to stick with the cognitive behavioral aspect side of things, because then that's more universal, and and that's I think that's just a more universal approach, and then everybody can kind of take it from there in terms of where they want to go with this in terms of their spiritual practice. So one of the things, one of the ways that we're going to facilitate all this is through also, once we get in touch with the breath and connect with our bodies, then the first part of what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some guided imagery that is going to be a little bit more, how should we say this, it's a little bit more creative. It's more symbolic, right? And it's less literal, right? So we're going to start with those things first, because that helps us to get our imagination going, and helps us to use these, the things that I'm talking about with simple metaphors to start to produce certain emotional states, and that then gets us into the brain states that I was talking about as well. So, and then, second part, I'm going to get into stuff that's a little bit more realistic, if you will, right? So less artistic, less interpretive, less, impressionistic, maybe, as an artist, right? That would be the way to maybe describe it. All right, so one thing then, so any questions before we get started, before we dig in? Okay, great. So what I'm also going to do is, because we're going to be having our eyes closed, there's no need to have the camera on, right? So to conserve bandwidth and, to give you guys also privacy, right? Because you may, get to a point where you wind up crying, or maybe laugh out loud, or maybe you cuss, right? Like, whatever comes up, you're allowed to be you. See, that's the other thing too, is it's, again, as I mentioned previously, you want to get in touch with yourself. So some of the stuff that's going to come up may be like super awesome, and maybe, maybe may feel fantastic, but some of it too may be stuff you need to work through, right? So in terms of thoughts to come up along those lines, it's entirely up to you. But for the most part, what I would attempt to do is that, just let those thoughts come and let them go. If they are more persistent or more powerful, then maybe, just take a quick second and write something down, or even less intrusive than that would be to simply smile at that thought, at that situation that provokes that thought, right? You get a mental image about something that happened to you, or something that you're, concerned about maybe happening or not happening, right? And you basically just, smile at that situation. Literally, when you force a smile on your face, even if you don't feel like it, well, what will happen is neurochemicals will be produced in conjunction with that smile, which gives you a little bit of dopamine, and and also just allows you to let go, right? So biochemically and also psychologically, because now you're saying, well, you know what, it's not that big of a deal, or right now it isn't, right? So yes.
Okay, so do you mean what you said was to even force a smile even when you don't feel like smiling? That's what you said?
If there's if there's a thought that's really just coming at you very hard and strong, right? or it comes back again and again as we're going through this. Yes, if you force a smile on your face, you know, the tail will wag the dog. Yeah,
Interesting.
try it. I think you'll really find that, you know, when you smile, you naturally cheer up. When you smile, you're able to also let go of things, right? So, you know, it's like saying that, you know what, this is okay. That person is okay. This situation is okay. You know, I can move beyond this. It's about letting go, right? So that's the other thing. That's kind of the paradox of meditation, is that even though we're connecting, you know, to our deeper innermost self to get a better, you know, understanding of who we are and to live our lives more proactively, at the same time, we also let go of more stuff, right? The stuff that we can't control. So, you know, and things that have happened in the past, right? I mean, everybody does it. I've done it too, right? Keep on, you know, going through the past. How should it have gone differently, right? You know, what should I have done differently? And part of that is learning, right? We want to learn. And as a thought like that comes through there, you know, that smile can very much state to both you and the other person, you know, I'm okay with this now. I forgive myself. I forgive that other person, right? And now I'm going to move on. And, you know, maybe you would write down something because something very specific hits you that you realize, and it's a good reason to quote unquote interrupt the meditation. You know, losing your quote unquote focus on the you know, on the pathway of the meditation, if you will, you know, isn't a bad thing. You know, obviously we want to stay focused, we want to stay, you know, in concentration, and that's helpful. But if something really strong comes up and something very specific, you have an epiphany, you have a realization, aha effect, right? Eureka. Then I would, you know, I would totally take a moment to write that down. You know, I mean, you have to use your own judgment there, but that is because that is one of the primary, you know, like I said, this is a primary purpose of meditation, is greater self-understanding and greater, you know, choice in all things. In other words, being more proactive. Yeah, that's a great question. I love it. Brett, do you have any questions before we get going?
He's muted.
You're mute, but he's also not talking.
Hey, sorry guys, my son had a surgery today. I'm talking to my son. He just got out of hospital, so give me a second. I'll be right back with you.
Okay. Okay. All right. So you know what? I think, yeah, I think
You can pause the record. You can pause it and continue. You know,
you know what?
have to
Here's what I'm gonna do. Let me see. Ask to unmute. Rename, plan, or remove. Okay. You know what? Yeah, I guess I can pause it.